Nobody expected Kandi Burruss's mother to finally break her silence. Nobody expected her to step forward after years of holding back her real feelings. And absolutely no one expected her to reveal that one confession. The confession that's now sending shockwaves through Bravo, social media, and Kandi's entire fan base. Blind to what? Blind to the warning signs, blind to the behavior, blind to the shift that everyone around her claims they saw, except her. Blind to the one thing her mother insists she tried to protect her from years ago. And tonight, she's done holding her tongue. In a moment that fans are calling the most explosive confession the Burruss family has ever seen, Kandi's mom publicly admitted that she knew things were off with Todd from the very beginning, and that Kandi refused to see what was happening right in front of her. Her voice was shaking, her eyes were cold, her tone was sharper than it has ever been on camera. And that one sentence shattered the internet. Is this about the money? The marriage? And then came the part that made everybody stop breathing. Kandi's mom said she has kept receipts. Receipts she claims she never showed the public. Receipts she never even showed Kandi. Until now. What truth? What receipts? What was Kandi blind to? And why is her mother choosing this moment to finally expose everything? This isn't family drama anymore. This is a revelation. One that threatens to shake Kandi and Todd's entire foundation. Long before this explosive moment, long before Kandi Burruss's mother stepped into the spotlight with a confession that shook the entire Bravo universe, there had been tension quietly brewing behind the scenes. Not public arguments, not dramatic breakdowns, not the screaming matches fans were used to seeing on Real Housewives. This was deeper. The kind of tension that exists in families when one person refuses to accept what they know in their bones. And for years, Kandi's mom had been carrying something on her heart. Something she insisted she saw the moment Todd Tucker entered Kandi's life. Something she says she tried to warn her about. Not out of jealousy, not out of bitterness, and not because she didn't want Kandi to be happy, but because she recognized a pattern she had seen before, a pattern she was determined to stop repeating. Friends close to the family have quietly said for years that Mama Joyce never fully trusted Todd. She didn't like his energy. She didn't like how comfortable he became in Kandi's world. She didn't like how seamlessly he slid into a life built on her daughter's hard work and legacy. And she especially didn't like the whispers that followed him. Whispers that suggested Todd was far more strategic than he appeared. But Kandi didn't see any of that. She was in love. She felt supported. She believed Todd was the partner she deserved after the heartbreaks she survived. And that sound, according to her mother, was the problem. Because love makes you blind. Blind to red flags, blind to shifts in behavior, blind to subtle manipulations, blind to the long-term consequences masked as short-term happiness. Those words didn't come from a place of malice. They came from a place of deep, heavy concern. The kind of concern only a mother carries when she feels something is slipping away from her child. Behind the scenes, before Todd and Kandi ever walked down the aisle, Mama Joyce was already picking up on things. The late-night conversations Kandi avoided, the arguments she brushed off, the financial disagreements she never wanted to discuss, the shift in Kandi's confidence the closer the wedding got. People thought she was being dramatic. People thought she was trying to control Kandi's choices, but according to her, that wasn't it. She said she always knew Kandi could financially support her own husband. That wasn't her worry. What bothered her was the imbalance. The ease with which Todd slid into the lifestyle. The way he seemed to benefit from every opportunity Kandi created. The way the power dynamic shifted before Kandi even realized it. Her mother noticed things others didn't. Moments where Todd would make decisions without consulting Kandi. Moments where he inserted himself into business ventures. Moments where he would disagree with Mama Joyce, but smile through it. Moments where he acted like he knew what was best for Kandi, more than she did. It wasn't loud. It wasn't obvious, but to her mother, it was unmistakable. That was the beginning of the divide. When Mama Joyce tried to express her concerns, Kandi shut down. Not out of disrespect, but out of love. A love so strong it blinded her to the possibility that her mother might be right. And that's when Kandi's mother stepped back, at least publicly. She didn't want to push too hard. She didn't want to force Kandi away. She didn't want to lose her daughter over a man she wasn't sure about, but privately, she watched everything. She listened. She paid attention to the late-night phone calls, the arguments whispered under breaths, the tension that crept into Kandi's voice whenever Todd's name came up. And then something changed. According to her mother, the shift began slowly. So slowly that Kandi didn't even notice it. Todd became more assertive, more controlling over small things, more confident in decisions that involved Kandi's career, her businesses, her employees. He began taking ownership in areas that had never been his. Moments she felt he resented how much she made. Moments she doubted whether they were truly aligned. But Kandi never told her mother those things. She protected Todd. She protected the marriage. She protected the image of the happy family she wanted so badly. And that, according to Mama Joyce, is how the blindness began. She said, Kandi thought she was choosing love. Behind the scenes, friends noticed the tension growing. Kandi started looking tired in interviews. She seemed distracted on camera. Her tone shifted on social media. She began defending Todd more passionately, more aggressively, often unprovoked, the way people do when they're trying to convince themselves as much as the public. That's when her mother realized Kandi wasn't just in love. She was emotionally invested in keeping the relationship together, even when the cracks were beginning to show. The cracks widened publicly when Todd became more involved in Kandi's ventures. Fans began questioning his role. Some thought he was helping, others thought he was benefiting. Her mother, however, saw something else entirely, a shift in control. She claims that Todd began influencing decisions Kandi used to make independently. Business deals, production choices, family matters, financial agreements, even friendships. That's when she started keeping receipts. Not messages, not screenshots, but moments, dates, conversations, red flags, things she heard from people who didn't think those details mattered, but to her they meant everything. According to Mama Joyce, these receipts paint a picture of a relationship where love turned into dependency and dependency turned into imbalance. All while Kandi believed everything was fine. And that is why her mother finally spoke out. Not to take Todd down, not to embarrass her daughter, not to fuel drama, but because she believes Kandi is finally at a crossroads, a breaking point where the truth is no longer a threat, but a necessity. She said, I stayed quiet long enough. And now the family is preparing for a storm that could reshape their entire dynamic. The moment Mama Joyce revealed she had receipts, the temperature in the room changed. It wasn't just a dramatic mother-in-law moment. It wasn't petty. It wasn't about money. It wasn't even about dislike. And the conflict truly erupted when Mama Joyce presented the first receipt. A moment she says happened long before Kandi ever married Todd. A moment Kandi brushed off as harmless, but her mother saw as a flashing red siren. According to her mother, Todd once made a comment during a family gathering that instantly unsettled her. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He wasn't drunk. He was quiet. Too quiet. Leaning back in his chair, watching the room, watching Kandi, studying her like he was trying to understand how she operated. Then he said, Kandi doesn't realize how much power she has. To the room, it sounded casual. To Kandi, it might have sounded flattering. But to her mother, it was a warning. She said that moment told her everything she needed to know. That Todd wasn't just a partner stepping into Kandi's world. He was studying it, calculating it, understanding where he could fit into it. Her mother claims, Todd wasn't in love with Kandi's heart first, but Kandi didn't see it. She laughed it off. She said he was joking. She said he admired her. And that was only receipt number one, because what came next was the real bombshell. The part Mama Joyce had been holding back for years. She says Todd came into the relationship with more ambition than honesty. Before he was Kandi's husband, he was a production worker hustling behind cameras. And Mama Joyce says that Todd's climb through the industry wasn't pure luck. It was a pattern of aligning himself with women who held influence, women who could elevate him, women whose platforms he could step onto. That statement alone sent shockwaves through the air. Friends close to the family began whispering that Mama Joyce had been hinting at this for years, but never had enough proof to say it outright. But recently, her receipts, messages, conversations, timelines finally connected. She claims Todd had been involved, or emotionally connected, with a woman working at a network long before he met Kandi, a woman who allegedly helped him get placements, connections, and visibility he never could have gotten on his own. Mama Joyce didn't call it cheating. She didn't call it scandalous. Translation? She believed Todd knew exactly how to move through a room, how to position himself, how to attach himself to someone's success. And when he met Kandi, a Grammy-winning songwriter, a businesswoman, a mogul in the making, it was the biggest opportunity of his life. But Kandi didn't see that. She fell for the love story. That's when the conflict deepened. Mama Joyce claims she confronted Todd early on about his intentions. But instead of getting defensive, instead of challenging her, instead of proving her wrong, he smiled. He didn't argue because he didn't need to. He had Kandi's heart, her trust, her loyalty. And once a man has a woman like Kandi, independent, successful, emotionally generous, he doesn't need to fight the mother. He just needs to wait for the daughter to choose him every single time. The second receipt was even more unsettling. This person wasn't angry. This person wasn't messy. This person wasn't trying to ruin a relationship. Mama Joyce kept that information to herself. She didn't want to sabotage Kandi. She didn't want to look like the villain. Kandi was in love, and her mother didn't want to break her heart over something she couldn't yet prove. But the moment Todd stepped deeper into Kandi's business, that's when Mama Joyce realized everything she feared was happening in slow motion. She said she began noticing how Todd inserted himself into conversations that weren't his, how he weighed in on decisions that weren't his to make, how he began speaking for Kandi in family discussions, business settings, and even interviews. Mama Joyce said, "A supportive husband speaks beside you." And that's when she began documenting, observing Kandi's emotional shifts, Todd's behavior patterns, the subtle way he took more space as the marriage progressed. But the first twist came when Kandi's friends, the ones she trusted the most, started venting quietly. Not publicly, not on camera, not even intentionally, but in casual conversations, in moments where the truth slipped out. But the twist that shattered everything, the moment that made Mama Joyce decide she had to speak publicly, happened 6 months ago. According to her mother, Kandi broke down during a private conversation. Not crying, not shouting, not panicking, just exhausted, emotionally drained, empty. She said something that stuck with her mother. "Sometimes I feel like Todd doesn't see me." That was the moment Mama Joyce realized Kandi wasn't blind anymore. She was waking up. She was questioning. She was noticing. But she wasn't ready to confront it. Because confronting it meant acknowledging that her marriage, the one she fought so hard to defend against public criticism, family judgment, and media speculation, might be deeply imbalanced. And that truth ignited the biggest conflict of all. Because when confronted about these emotional shifts, Todd allegedly didn't respond with empathy. He responded with defensiveness. Friends close to the couple say Todd accused Kandi of listening to outsiders, of letting her mother manipulate her, of trying to change the dynamics of their marriage. He turned the conversation back on her, made her feel guilty, made her question her own feelings. That's when Mama Joyce knew. Todd's control wasn't loud, it was quiet. And then came the first major twist. The twist that aired out exactly what Kandi had been blind to all along. When Mama Joyce heard that line, everything clicked. That sentence, that mindset, was the missing piece. Because it confirmed what she feared from the beginning. Todd didn't just want love, he wanted position, stability, leverage, a pathway into a life he couldn't build on his own. And Kandi, talented, wealthy, compassionate, successful, had given him everything a man like that could ever dream of. But had she received the same love back, the same effort, the same loyalty, the same transparency? That is what Mama Joyce is exposing now. Not to destroy the marriage, not to embarrass her daughter, but because she believes Kandi finally sees the red flags she ignored for years. And the receipts she's holding may force Kandi to confront a truth she's been too afraid to admit. Todd might love her, but he also benefited from her blindness. And the next twist? It's even worse. The tension in Kandi's household had been simmering quietly for years, but the moment Mama Joyce brought the receipts forward, real, tangible, verifiable patterns, everything began to shift. Because this wasn't gossip anymore. This wasn't opinion. This was evidence. Evidence of a man who had been inserting himself deeper and deeper into a world he once only dreamed of accessing. And it was during this shift, this fragile period where Kandi was finally beginning to question the dynamics of her marriage, that Todd Tucker made the move that nearly shattered the entire Burruss foundation. It started with something small, something subtle, something that could have been dismissed if Kandi wasn't already conflicted. Todd allegedly made a decision on behalf of both of them, without asking her. Not a household decision, not a small business detail, not a petty argument, a major financial decision tied to one of Kandi's companies. According to insiders, Todd authorized a deal, a partnership, one that directly affected Kandi's brand, reputation, and financial structure. And he did it while she was out of town filming. No discussion, no call, no text asking approval. He did it as if it were his right, as if her empire had automatically become theirs. When Kandi found out, she wasn't angry at first. She was confused. She confronted him, expecting an explanation, expecting an apology, expecting at least a moment of clarity. Instead, she got the one response that changed everything. Todd said, "I didn't think I had to run it by you." But Mama Joyce said the quiet part out loud. That wasn't teamwork. This moment broke something inside Kandi. Something she didn't even realize had been fragile. Because for the first time, she saw it. The confidence Todd carried wasn't confidence. It was entitlement. He didn't see himself as contributing to Kandi's empire. He saw himself as inheriting it. And then the escalation got worse. Behind the scenes, Todd started questioning Kandi's spending. Not because they were struggling financially, not because he wanted to help budget, but because he wanted oversight. Oversight over what she did with her money. Oversight over where she invested. Oversight over who she worked with. Oversight over a world she built long before he arrived. Friends overheard arguments, not explosive, not chaotic, but tense. Quiet, controlled. The type of arguments where one person is trying to reason and the other is trying to dominate. And Todd wasn't yelling. He wasn't threatening. He was strategizing. But Mama Joyce wasn't fooled. And then came the revelation that changed everything. The discovery that made Kandi stop defending Todd and start questioning what else she hadn't seen. Someone from Todd's past reached out to a family friend with information. Not to start drama, not to attack Todd, but because they recognized the pattern unfolding and felt compelled to warn Kandi. This source claimed that years before meeting Kandi, Todd had a situation with another woman, someone he briefly dated who also worked in media production. According to this insider, Todd allegedly became deeply involved in her career, positioning himself as a supporter and partner, until her connections dried up. And when her opportunities faded, Todd faded too. Walked away quietly. No explanation, no closure, just gone. This insider said, Todd knows how to align himself. When Kandi heard this, she froze. Not because she believed Todd was using her. She didn't want to believe that. Not because she suddenly distrusted her marriage. That wasn't her heart. But because she remembered something Todd once said early in their relationship. A moment she brushed off. A moment she laughed at. A moment that suddenly didn't feel innocent anymore. Todd said, "I've never been with a woman who had more to offer than I did." At the time, it sounded sweet. Now, it sounded strategic. And when Mama Joyce heard the story of the woman from his past, she didn't react with surprise. She reacted with confirmation. That's the pattern, but the escalation wasn't complete yet. Because just when the family was processing this bombshell, Todd did something that pushed everything over the edge. Something Kandi never expected. He confronted her about her mother. Not respectfully, not lovingly, not with empathy. He confronted her with frustration. Frustration that she was allowing outside voices to influence her perception of him. But the part that shook Kandi was when Todd said, "Your mother has too much power." It wasn't what he said, it's what he revealed. For years, Todd played the calm, balanced, supportive partner, the one who respected Mama Joyce, even when she didn't like him. The one who smiled when she criticized him. The one who said he understood. But now the mask slipped. He wasn't neutral. He wasn't unaffected. He wasn't silently enduring. He resented it. He resented her. He resented the influence she carried in Kandi's life. And in that moment, Kandi's heart cracked. Because she realized Todd didn't just want partnership. He wanted territory. And Mama Joyce was standing on it. The argument spiraled. Words were exchanged. Accusations flew. Kandi felt cornered. Todd felt threatened. And the delicate balance of their relationship shifted again. Harder, deeper, more dramatically than ever before. But the shocking reveal hadn't even hit yet. Because after the argument, After Todd stormed out to cool off, Mama Joyce quietly approached Kandi with one final receipt. The one she had been saving for the moment she knew her daughter was ready to hear it. She sat Kandi down, held her hand. Kandi's heart pounded, her eyes filled. Her mother hesitated, not because she wanted drama, but because she knew this could break everything. Then she revealed the line. A line Todd once said in confidence. A line that the family friend overheard. A line that exposed Todd's mindset long before he ever became Kandi's husband. Those words hit Kandi like a punch to the chest. It wasn't about love. It wasn't about partnership. It wasn't about building together. It was about playing something. A game, a strategy, a move. And Kandi began to wonder, had she been the prize all along? Her mother said, "You weren't blind, baby, you were hopeful." Because the truth is, her mother hasn't shown her the final receipt. And the next reveal? It could destroy everything Kandi thought she knew about her marriage. The moment whispers of Kandi and Todd's tension began leaking outside the Burruss household, the entire Bravo universe erupted. It didn't start with a blog post or a gossip column. It started with a subtle, quiet shift in how people close to Kandi began behaving online. Friends who normally supported both of them suddenly started posting vague messages. And fans immediately knew something was wrong, because Kandi's circle had never been this cryptic. They weren't messy, they weren't the type to feed drama, they didn't hint unless something big was happening behind the scenes. And for them to suddenly shift into protective mode, that meant this wasn't a small issue, this was a fracture. One big enough to shake the foundation of Kandi's empire. Within hours, Bravo fan pages began to speculate. The speculation spread like wildfire. Podcasts picked it up, bloggers started digging, screenshots, quotes, and theories flooded TikTok. And then the major entertainment outlets caught wind. But the fallout intensified when someone, a production assistant who remained anonymous, leaked a shocking detail to a popular gossip blog. There was a major argument in the Tucker household, and it wasn't pretty. That was enough to send social media into a frenzy. And with every comment, Todd's public image began to shift. Not violently, but steadily, like a tide turning against him. Todd noticed, and Todd reacted. He didn't respond directly. He knew better than to feed the fire. But he started posting carefully curated content. Smiling selfies, family moments, working hard, videos, behind-the-scenes clips. He was trying to create an image, a man unbothered, a husband committed, a partner supportive, but fans weren't buying it. And the reactions didn't stop there. People close to the Burruss family started choosing sides, quietly but noticeably. Some friends unfollowed Todd. Some stopped liking his posts. Some publicly praised Kandi without mentioning him at all. And the Bravo community, but always ready for chaos today, went into overdrive dissecting every detail. But the real escalation came when an old interview resurfaced. An interview Todd did years ago where he joked about not having to struggle again now that he was with Kandi. At the time, it seemed harmless. Now, it looked like foreshadowing. Fans replayed the clip thousands of times, analyzing his expression, his tone, the subtle smugness behind the humor. One viewer wrote, "This wasn't a joke." And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more chaotic, a well-respected entertainment journalist posted this. "There's a deeper story here. That single line sent fans into a frenzy. Receipts, plural, coming out soon. From where? From who?" Speculation skyrocketed. Some believed Mama Joyce had already leaked details privately. Others believed Bravo producers were preparing to address it on air. Some even suspected a cast member had overheard something significant. But behind the scenes, Todd was reportedly furious. Not yelling, not raging, but strategizing, the same way he always had. But Kandi had gone quiet. And that worried fans more than anything. Because in the past, whenever drama hit, Kandi addressed it head-on. She was direct, she was vocal, she was calm, but firm. Silence was not her style. But now she wasn't posting, she wasn't defending, she wasn't clarifying, she wasn't even denying. And silence from someone as transparent as Kandi means something is deeply wrong. People close to her say she's overwhelmed, processing, deciding, reevaluating, not ready to speak publicly because the truth is heavier than anyone realizes. But the fallout wasn't just emotional. It was business. 2 brands reportedly reached out to Kandi's team asking for clarity due to ongoing public speculation about her marriage dynamic. Not because they planned to drop her, but because the public narrative was evolving too quickly. And that's the danger. When public opinion shifts too fast, brands panic. When brands panic, producers panic. And when producers panic, Bravo notices. Rumors began circulating that Bravo executives were preparing for major questions at upcoming reunions, spin-offs, and press tours. And then came the biggest public shock of all. A video surfaced, grainy, brief, taken by someone on the outskirts of Kandi's circle, showing Kandi wiping tears from her face during what looked like a heavy conversation with a close friend. No audio, no context, just the image of a woman exhausted from carrying emotional weight. The video went viral instantly. OMG, not Kandi crying. She's hurting. And while fans were rallying behind her, Todd's silence turned suspicious. Not empathy, not comfort, not support. Just stillness. Almost like he was calculating his next move. Like he knew the narrative was slipping. Like he knew Mama Joyce was gaining power. Like he knew the truth was inching closer to the surface. And as the online debate grew louder, the Bravo machine began preparing for impact. Because this was not a storyline anymore. This was a fracture, a public unraveling, a marriage under scrutiny, a husband's intentions questioned, a mother's warnings proven, a woman's emotional exhaustion exposed to millions. And just when social media thought they had uncovered everything, a new rumor emerged. A rumor that Todd wasn't the only one keeping secrets. A rumor that there was a final receipt, the one Mama Joyce refused to reveal publicly, yet. And if that comes out, the entire Burruss-Tucker family dynamic may never recover. Just when the world thought the drama surrounding Kandi and Todd had reached its peak, when the blogs had squeezed every drop of speculation out of the situation, when fans had picked apart every old interview, every social media post, every subtle shift in their marriage, that's when the truth took its darkest, most unexpected turn, because the final receipt, the one Mama Joyce refused to reveal, the one she hid even from Kandi, wasn't about money, wasn't about business, wasn't about fame, control, or ambition. It was about loyalty, specifically Todd's. According to Mama Joyce, there was something Todd did years ago, something that predates the marriage, predates the arguments, predates the facade of partnership, something she found out only through someone who never wanted to be involved in the drama, but who finally came forward after seeing how deeply the situation was affecting Kandi. The truth began unraveling when Mama Joyce received a call from a former coworker, someone who had worked with Todd before he ever met Kandi, someone who knew him before the brand, before the fame, before he became a household name. This person said, "There's something Kandi needs to know." Mama Joyce was hesitant. She didn't want more conflict. She didn't want to break her daughter's heart. She didn't want to be the reason Kandi questioned her marriage. But when the caller revealed what they knew, Mama Joyce said she felt something cold move through her, something she couldn't ignore, something she had prayed wasn't true. This is where the twist hits, because last night, according to the coworker, Todd made a statement, a bold, calculating one, about his future. He said, "I'm not looking for love right now." The coworker pressed him. "What does that mean?" At the time, it sounded like ambition. Now, it sounds like intention. But that wasn't the twist. The twist came when Mama Joyce realized something horrifying, something she had suspected for years but never wanted to admit. Todd didn't just align himself with Kandi, he planned to. Because according to the coworker, Todd knew exactly who Kandi was long before they met. Not casually, not vaguely. He knew her power, he knew her money, he knew her influence, he knew her ambition. That line split the entire narrative open, because it meant Todd didn't just stumble into Kandi's life. He didn't just fall in love naturally. He didn't just build a relationship organically. He targeted success. He targeted alignment. He targeted opportunity. And Kandi? She was the opportunity. When Mama Joyce revealed this to Kandi, the room fell silent. Kandi couldn't speak. She couldn't breathe. She didn't know whether to believe it, deny it, defend him, or collapse under the weight of a truth she'd tried to avoid for years. Her hands shook, her eyes filled with tears. Her entire body went still as the realization hit her. What if she hadn't been blind? What if she had been chosen? Chosen not for her heart, not for her character, but for her empire. And Mama Joyce, who rarely cries, felt tears forming because she knew this was the moment her daughter was finally seeing the truth she'd been trying to ignore. But the final cliffhanger didn't come from Mama Joyce. It came from Todd. Because while Kandi was processing the revelation, Todd walked into the house, unannounced, quiet, his expression unreadable. He had overheard enough to know exactly what was being discussed. He didn't yell, he didn't defend himself, he didn't demand to know who told them. Not a question, a statement, a dangerous one. Kandi froze. Mama Joyce stepped forward, Todd's jaw tightened. A warning, a challenge, or something darker? Because suddenly the truth wasn't just about receipts, it was about consequences. And as Todd walked out of the room, something became painfully, terrifyingly clear. This marriage is no longer about misunderstandings, it's about motives, it's about power, it's about exposure. And Kandi must now face a question she never thought she'd ask. Did I marry a partner? Or a strategist? The final receipt still hasn't been shown, and when it drops, nothing in the Burruss-Tucker world will ever be the same again. Before you click off this video, take a moment to really sit with what just unfolded. Because this wasn't just another celebrity disagreement. This wasn't surface-level drama. This wasn't a petty argument blown out of proportion. What you just heard is the kind of revelation that shakes a marriage, a family, and an entire fan base to its core. Kandi Burruss, one of the strongest, smartest, most successful women in entertainment, is now standing at a crossroads she never expected to face. A crossroads between the love she fought for and the truth she can no longer ignore. And the scariest part? This isn't the end of the story, not even close. There are still unanswered questions, hidden receipts, and cracks forming in places Kandi never thought would break. So now, I want you to jump into the comments and tell me what you think. Do you believe Todd truly loved Kandi? Or did he love the position she offered? Do you think Mama Joyce is finally being vindicated after years of warning signs? And most importantly, what do you think the final receipt is? Because if the rumors are true, that last receipt is big enough to shift everything we thought we knew about this marriage. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications. Because trust me, the moment more details leak, the moment Todd reacts publicly, the moment Kandi releases a statement, or the moment Mama Joyce drops another truth bomb, we will break it down piece by piece with every shocking twist included. Share this video everywhere: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, your group chats. Because the more people talk, the faster the truth comes out. This isn't just drama anymore. This is a story unfolding in real time, and you are part of uncovering what really happened behind closed doors. Stay alert, stay watching, and stay ready. Because the final receipt hasn't dropped yet. And when it does, everything will explode.